We have been so successful at the national level in competing for these projects and in the urban environment with the Corps is because Parks has an excellent record for protection and stewardship of these lands and a long-term commitment in stewardship in parks that we can be good stewards to these new investments. Without that baseline excellence and the confidence of future success, we wouldn't be able to attract the Corps, nor would we be competitive, especially in an urban area.
Thank you. That's the end of our presentation.
Well, we have two invited guests, so should we bring them up? Is Mike out here? Yep. Mike's here, and we also have our friend from the Johnson Creek Watershed Council. So, gentlemen, if you would come forward. This is our invited panel. Thank you both for being here. Sure.
Thank you, Commissioners. The Johnson Creek Watershed Council has a lot of overlap in mission with Bureau of Environmental Services and what they are doing in the streams around Portland. In particular, in Johnson Creek, we work a lot on fish passage too. A lot of the projects that you've just seen are about opening up new habitat that salmonids are not currently able to get into. I just want to point out that one of the reasons that we are doing, in our organization, we're doing this kind of work is to provide ecosystem resilience with climate change. As we're seeing, streams all over the Northwest are getting hotter and hotter. And one of the big strategies to try to combat that and to make sure that we continue to have salmon is to open up cold water habitat that's currently blocked by culverts. So I would just like to go on record to say I really support this partnership with the Corps of Engineers that will allow additional cold water habitat to be opened up to salmon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, my name is Mike Houck. I'm Director of the Urban Green Spaces Institute. I can be very brief. I will start out by saying that I'm very excited about the work at Oaks Bottom Wildlife Refuge. I actually got involved with Oaks Bottom 49 years ago, literally almost a half century, when the city was actually contemplating filling Oaks Bottom for motocross course and a number of other uses that we were not very excited about. So it's taken 49 years. I'm grateful I don't have to wait for another 49. The fact of the matter is, city staff in Parks and BES have done amazing work over the years, but a lot of it's been around the edges, simply because there haven't been the resources that have been needed for truly heroic efforts like Oaks Bottom and these other projects you've heard about. So the only way we are really going to have a major impact on improvement of the Willamette and its tributaries is by partnering with the Corps and other parties. So I'm just hopeful you'll approve this and we'll move forward on these 5 projects. I will point out, however, I also got involved with Ross Island 1979. Council was on the other side of this room when we were talking about trying to protect Ross Island and the herons that utilize Ross Island. It's been a long time coming. The responsibility for Ross Island sand and gravel to do restoration will be relatively minimal compared to what could be out there. And it's not on the list, but I would urge the city to consider making sure that Oaks Bottom, Ross Island, the Ross Island Archipelago, the 4 islands, and Holgate Channel be viewed as an ecological unit. And in the future, we have an effort with the Corps and other partners to truly have one of the most amazing, in the middle of the city, ecological systems in the country. And I would hope that the Corps be brought into that effort as well.
Good, just Ross Island, huh?
Mike, I did get your email and materials, so thanks for furnishing that to us.
Great. Thank you.
That concludes our presentation, Madam President.
Carla, is there any testimony?
Yes, we have 4 people signed up. First 3 are Edith Gillis, Maggie, and Charles Bridgecrane Johnson.
Please come up. You have 3 minutes. Please keep your testimony relevant to the item at hand. And don't forget to state your name for the record.
Good morning, my name is Edith Gillis, and I'm coming to you with a lifelong calling and a passion reflected in my degree, my first degrees at University of Oregon in field biology, recreation park management, and education. I strongly support the general concept of this, and I'm also strongly encouraging you to pay attention to including citizen scientists. As a volunteer for BARC, I was able to protect the safety of our drinking water by stopping a timber sale when I found a very rare, endangered, small animal-eating plant colony. We have to let the folks know it's not just about saving fish and making nice little parkways for the rich white folks to raise their property values and our tax income. We need to have healthy fish because through them they're bringing the marine nutrients to our trees and forests that we need to have in order to comb and attract the clouds in which we have to manage the safe, healthy precipitation that we need for our drinking water, for our air purification, and for our safety, fire prevention, etc. So we really need to let the public know why what you're doing is important for all classes, cultures, income, and recreation interests. It's the best way to invest our funding if we really engage the public in transparent, timely ways to get our information and feedback. I've been able to solve problems that would have saved us billions of dollars, and other times I wish I had known in time that I could have saved us billions of dollars, as well as having as volunteers. I love working with Solve and others in order to restore our waterways, and congratulations on the good concept. Let's watch the follow through and the details.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson, and as Edie alluded to, it was also mentioned directly in the presentation that the situation first, their return is indicative of actually a healthy environment for all of us. I don't know how thoroughly other people have had a chance to review this agenda item online. It comes with an additional 70-page exhibit. And I think perhaps the best argument in favor of you all voting for this is the fact that Bob Salinger is not here, Columbia Riverkeeper is not here, etc. So it looks like between the BES and the Corps of Engineers, you have even if these 70 pages don't specifically spell out a big role for NGOs and nonprofits, at least the process has happened where the most diligent and committed and often paid even less than the lowest water bureau employees or BES employees, people at perhaps even Columbia River Intertribal Fishing Commission have become aware of this. There's no objection here. So let's get to work on repairing and protecting our bioregion. Thank you.
Thank you.
As a fan of Rachel Carlson, I think we need to listen to our environmental scientists and realize that even if we lose one thing in the system of an ecosystem, it's like a domino. Everything falls. So as long as the Corps of Engineers are building things up to support the ecosystem, I'm all for it. And I'm all for consulting our environmental scientists and engineers about protecting all life. Thank you.
I didn't use up all my time. I want to quickly say that this project, if managed properly, attending to the details, is also much better for emergency preparedness and disaster resilience.
The last person who signed that comment.
Mellow here today. It's pretty mellow here today. Yeah, it is. I thought Joey was supposed to show up.
Mr. Lightning.
We're talking about that a little bit.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Superhumanity. I didn't hear anything on what we would do with the contaminated dredging materials, and if you have a location to actually take that to. Because as you know from my position, I have a real problem with projects being done and they take it to the center of the river in another location and dumping those contaminated dredging materials at a different location. So if that's what you're planning to do, I'm absolutely against any of this. So issue number 2 is that,
Hey, can I just address that?
yeah, if you can address it, thank you, sir.
We're not doing dredging, we're changing culverts and other water flows in order to promote safe places for juvenile salmon, but this is dredging and the work that's going to be done on the river through Superfund is not part of this plan.
Okay, and I'll respond to that. Ross Island was brought up also in other locations by some of your speakers, so that's why I said dredging. And on your presentation, it also said dredging on your presentation, so that's why I brought that up. That's a big concern to me on where those contaminated materials go. And the reason why I say that, in my opinion, submersible land is owned by the state, controlled by the state, and it's their responsibility, but I'm not hearing really where the state will be adding money and how much money they will be adding. Now, I do agree on the federal government stepping in, and also when we're talking dredging, the Superfund site is very necessary, but in my opinion, the point brought up on the climate change issues, which I think was a very good point you brought up, and as you know, the people sitting in this room, we're looking at a very serious situation this year on the snowpack itself. And we're looking at a very serious situation this summer, plain and simple. I lived on the river 12 years, lived out 750 feet from the bank on the river for 12 years, so I understand how this river can adjust and change just with the snow melt off, just with the rainfall, and you can analyze that just by standing there and looking from the bank and how that actually changes. So with 10 years of experience out on the river, I have a clear understanding on what we're going to face this summer. And again, one of the other concerns I have is I didn't hear anything about the Native Americans and on the treaties and where their position was on this, because to me, when we're talking about the river and salmon, we basically took away their ability to make any type of income or feed their families. And we should be focusing on that as the top priority on what they think should be done, what they think should be the right thing to do, and how things should be done. And I didn't hear anything on that issue from any representatives up here besides Commissioner Hardesty. And so that's my main focus. I just want to make sure that's looked at very close and understand what do they have to say about this. Period. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes, President, I think we need to adopt the substitute and then take the ordinance.
Carla, please call the roll on the substitute.
Thank you, Commissioner Fish, for your amendments. Am I taking it that do the substitutes add the emergency? Or are you planning to add an emergency clause?
Oh, this is not, I'm sorry, it's a non-emergency, we're fine with a non-emergency.
Okay, I just wanted to know when should I make my big speech? I've got a big speech. So it's now, I'm ready.
It's a non-emergency.
Okay, good. So I'll start again. Thank you, Commissioner Fish, for your work on this, for your staff in both of your areas. Thanks to Caitlin Lovell and Emily Rafferty, between whom you have decades of commitment to our watersheds and our communities and our natural areas, and a lot of the progress we've made is thanks to you two women, so thank you very much for your work. And thanks to Jamie Dunphy in Commissioner Fish's office and Nissan Kwan and mine for work on the amendments. One of the most important to me was adding in the resolve to reflect the fact that has been Commissioner Fish's intent all along, that this agreement just applies to these particular projects. It's not a blanket or designation of authority. And so I'm very pleased to support it. Thank you, Commissioner Fish. Bye.
Well, thank you. We're pleased to bring the substitute forward, and we got a lot of constructive feedback from colleagues and from staff, and so thanks to both. I'll just give you a little preview of what I'm going to say next week, which is there's a lot to be discouraged about these days in Washington, D.C., but there's this little-known program called WRDA, the Water Resources Development Act, which has become really one of our lifelines. And we are so grateful for our congressional delegation for fighting to put this in the budget and then helping us with the appropriations. And in the current Congress, we are now very well positioned with our senators and our representatives in key leadership positions. So we have a high degree of confidence, but leaving nothing to chance. We're dispatching Caitlin to DC to do some lobbying. One of the great joys in my life of having both the Parks Bureau and the Bureau of Environmental Services report to me is that we now have the two bureaus that are the lead in this effort, working together with our office to make this happen. And it's exciting. We won't see our two guests next week, but the Johnson Creek Watershed is one of our great partners. And so we thank you again for all the work that you do. And Mike Hauk, for 49 years, has kept his